I just want to point that out because there's always like a few people who will follow certain ones of these series on my YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
And so for the people who are hanging out with us in the woo space, like I want to point out that this isn't like, oh, we're just sitting down to have like this big in-depth discussion. Like we regularly have
Mm-mm.
this level of discussion. And so by modeling it, it's like when you're looking for
Yep.
that woo bestie who can equally hold space with you in this
Yep.
way, we're not like we're looking for people who are not just going to stay at a surface level or who like dip in and then bounce out. And then when it's convenient for them, dip back in again and bounce out. Like this
Mm-mm.
is,
No.
sustained, sort of deep inner work.
Again.
It has been, I'm telling you, when I say it's been a week.
It's been a week. It's been a month. It's been a quarter.
We're gonna digest it from our woo-woo sides. Hey,
So
woo bestie.
that's all I got. That's all I got. Honestly, if it wasn't for I don't know what I did before I tapped into this. I really don't. Like I don't
Yeah.
know what kept me grounded. Like what kept me tethered in a good way and from just like
Yeah.
floating off or just going completely flat because
Mm.
if I didn't have the thought processes and the actual physical tangible things that I could put my hands on and the things that I knew I had access to that you don't really know how to explain, like being able to I mean my dad died when I was 12 and I know that he's there, and so like being able to access those types of things, I
Mhm.
don't know what I would do if I didn't have that at a time like this.
Either. Well, I mean, that's the thing that we kind of want to talk about this week too, because um the world is a shit show. That's putting it mildly. And we're noticing patterns in like the reactions of people and the energy of people. And you and I coach a lot of people all week, every week in very practical ways. And
Yes.
and so, but this still comes up. And but I want us to start with oh shit, now I'm forgetting the question. I was like, this would be so crafty.
Do it.
Oh, what did you do? What have you done so far this week for what was it? For comfort,
Yeah, for
spiritual
comfort.
comfort?
Yeah. The thing that brought me the most comfort this week was ancestor reverence. Um, it's of course, this week with Halloween and how do you pronounce it? Samhain?
Samhain
Samhain.
or
You
sewing.
know,
Sorry, I should say sewing, not Samhain.
there we go. Um, there's a
Who
lot.
am I? Do I know anything?
Y'all, I'm working on it. Um, there's a lot of belief around the fact that you know, if you believe that those that are gone are still somewhere, that
Mm,
this is the time that like the veil between the spaces is thin. And so like for some that could be scary, but for some it's like no, that means that I can get intuitive guidance. That means that I can, let my people know I appreciate you. Help me out or just I love you. Like thank you for like keeping me upright when I
mhm.
didn't know how to do it. And so for me this week, that just kind of moment of, you know, having that time at the altar, the lighting of the
Yeah.
candle, the, having my hands on these pictures again that don't always see a lot of light of day. Not because I don't want them to see the light of day, but because these pictures are old. Like there are some points where it's like, here's the copies of photos, and sometimes you need the actual photos. And then these photos are old. You're like, I need these photos to make it. Old photos you got to be real careful with. And so when I am able to touch these photos and I know that they touch them and I'm able to
Mm,
see them, it is a plugging into that connection. It is a reminder that, this is a blip in time, and it helps to feel bigger and smaller at the same time.
Yeah.
Smaller and like don't overestimate how serious something is,
Hmm.
and yet bigger and like, you have so much more to give, just do the thing and don't overthink it. So,
Yeah.
you know, there's just that comfort. I think there's a different comfort too. I'm curious what your thoughts are of like when you're an adult and you feel like you are connecting with, you know, an ancestor that was an adult. And
Yeah.
now you're an adult, as
Yeah.
opposed to like when there was like this
Yeah.
adult child dynamic. And all of a sudden
Mhm.
it's like, well, wait, I'm able to like talk to you. And it's a little more like I can actually ask the questions, say the things, and it feels very different.
And hear the answer in a way where you can digest it,
Yes.
like actually taste it and digest it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I
Yeah.
think that having that place of like, especially for me, and my dad's always a reference when it comes to this because he was 37 when he left.
So young.
And I'm 44. And
Yeah.
so like I'm older. And yet I'm always gonna feel like he's the elder.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, especially because like, yeah, even if, you weren't here as long, you still have had more time, if that makes
Hmm.
sense, as much as we use the time,
Yeah.
time as a construct and a concept. But he now has like the knowledge that you get when you're no longer limited to Earth being ghetto. And we stuck here with it. Sorry if
Earth is
that's
the
offensive.
Florida of the universe. It's the Florida of the universe.
Oh, it is.
I love
The
that
aliens
meme
are
where they're like
the
the
aliens
aliens
are
fly
like,
by and they're like, no, don't
don't
even stop
stop.
there.
Don't stop. So, I don't know that when you are hitting a point where you're just like, I don't know what the point of all this is.
Yeah.
And you have a hard time being able to do some of the things that you're here to do when it comes to creation and connection.
Hmm.
Because those are the things that matter when everything else falls away. Um, that connection with those that are watching over you is such a huge piece of it. And that has been the part that has helped me to try to get out of that funk of like, this is just terrible and it's just going nowhere.
Yeah.
That's awful. It's awful.
As you know from the very large amount of memes you received from me in the last week and a half.
I
um,
have to say out loud though that memes are a love language. I'm sorry. I am sorry, not
they're my
sorry.
love
Like
language. They're totally my love language.
they're a love language. It's
I belong
fine.
with people. And I'm like, and it was just like, Erica, Erica.
Nope. Because it's
um,
great.
there was another meme that floated by my universe this week, and I don't know if I sent this one to you. I think I might have, and it was a sign from some like store or restaurant or something, and they were like, "Has anyone tried unplugging and plugging, like unplugging Earth and like or the United States and plugging it back in again?" It was for the United States, and
Yep.
that whole concept of rebooting, and
I, I was
I
like,
come from
hard
like the tech
reset.
world where like it's
Hard
totally like that
reset.
movie, The IT Crowd, where you're like, did she turn it off and turn it back on again? Like you wouldn't believe how many times that solves like 99% of the problems.
Right.
And I feel like spiritual, that is one of the most powerful things that can be done right now is like, have you tried rebooting yourself? And everyone's reboot
Seriously.
is going to be different because we're operating on different operating systems and different software
Mhm.
upgrades and all the things. And so, like, some people are going to boot up real fast, and some people, it's like, it's going to take you a minute. And there is nothing wrong.
Right.
Like, I still love my old iPad, but bless its heart, I had to reboot it this morning. And like that thing takes a minute and it is
Right.
not as fast as this iMac that's running on like one of the newer, M chips from
Right.
Apple and like, and it just runs differently,
Right.
and and I think sometimes we have expectations that everything's all equal across the board
Oh gosh, no.
spiritually and like
No.
energetically. And now, so I love looking at tech as my like framework because I'm like,
Mhm.
there's different devices, you know. I mean, we are totally children of the 80s, and like, give me a cassette player any day.
See,
But if you want to start over again, you got to rewind that thing.
where's
And
your
it's going to
pencil?
take a minute. You don't just go into your streaming service and just hit like
No.
restart. You can't.
So that's a piece of it. I think, again, going back to the whole having the restart, I think there's the whole like, did you close out all the extra windows or tabs? There's the did you restart the app? Then there's the like, did you restart the phone? There's the, did you just simply just like turn the screen off, like just close it for a minute and open it again? Then there's the whole like, oh no, 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 I need to let you completely die, and then I will recharge you all over again.
Mm.
There's the full hard reset. Let's just kind of, we're gonna start again.
Factory settings.
Right. And so like it really just kind of depends on where you are.
Yeah.
And even us as an individual, you're like, sometimes it's just fine to close a couple of the windows and you're fine. Other times it's
Mhm.
like, oh no, 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 baby, hard reset. We just got factory settings. We have to go all the way back. And you don't know until you do. And
No.
I think the thing about it is that if you expect that everybody's is going to be the same,
Hmm.
that part of us that is like, why are you taking so long to respond? That's like a life affliction. We look around and it's like, why are you taking so long to respond? And you don't realize that they got the pinwheel of death. Apple users know it intimately, unfortunately. You have the pinwheel of death on your forehead. Like, you don't know how you're trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about those that just abuse tech. There are some people where it's like, no. And use this analogy for life, y'all. Yeah, I'm you'll pick up what I'm putting down. I'm not
Uh-huh.
talking about the ones that abuse tech. I am not talking about the ones where it's like, when Siri becomes sentient, I feel for you. Like, we're not talking about those, okay?
Uh-huh.
That's not what we're talking about. But when it's like, you appreciate the tech, you appreciate the devices, you appreciate the access, you appreciate the knowledge, you appreciate the connection that comes with it. Sometimes the people around you, their
Mm.
tech is not techy. Sometimes they are not able to get to the apps that they need to get into.
Mm-mm.
Sometimes they are trying to type and their fingers are just hitting the wrong keys and they cannot. And they are like, I have to just do talk to text because I'm trying to communicate with you and I cannot figure out how to do this. And I genuinely hope you can pick up what I'm putting down.
Mhm.
And sometimes, you know, STFU is free and abundant. People don't take enough of it. And sometimes you just need to turn your screen off and not say any damn thing because you now have diarrhea of the mouth.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel like lately, sticking with this analogy, that people, when you're like typing with your thumbs or even with a keyboard,
Yep.
and like the letters just like the autocorrect just doesn't kick in right. It just doesn't. And so you
If
just
I
get
see
like,
duct one more time, I'm not typing duct. Okay. It knew what I was typing.
I
It
totally
wasn't
is.
duct.
There's supposed to be and then it's this expectation, like, because I'm thinking there was supposed to be an update on the latest iOS where they purposely said they were going to stop censoring all the variations of fuck and replacing it with duck, and they were just going to let you say it. And
Mhm.
I'm like, where is it? It hasn't happened.
It
But
has not happened.
I feel like lately, I don't think that people realize that they're like trying to type too many words with their thumbs or shout things out into the universe. And they're like, why is nobody hearing me? Nobody's understanding something. And I'm like, because it came out as gobbledygook. And it's that point where you just need to like hold your thumb, select all, delete, and just put the phone down for a minute.
Mhm.
I mean, my big bee in my bonnet has been about people needing to get back together in person. I know that this is not always the case all the time, whatever. This does not have to be like big action all the time things, but like if you sequester at home and you're not really truly interacting with humans, human to human, Like, start with the grocery store. I even have heard of some people where they're still getting
Yeah.
groceries delivered because they're like, I don't want to go out. And I'm like, but it's contributing to this spiritual disconnection because everything is so much energy. And like, if you can't actually feel it, you're not integrating into it.
We don't know how to be in that much energy anymore. Because if we use a conference as an example, we would be in there with how many people's energy at one time? And yes, I mean, personally, there would be times even before COVID where I was like, okay, I need to take a break from it, but I could go back into it.
Yeah.
And now we're at the point that you're even like, I don't even want to walk in the Target. Now, personally, that's me trying to save myself from myself, but
Oh, well, I mean, it's Target.
right. But
It's
it's
like
like,
Costco for me.
right, right. So it's like, I'm going to sit outside and I'm going to request that you bring me the groceries because I know that if I go in here,
You'll
I'm
spend everything.
not going to make good choices. I'm not going to make good choices. Um, but I think that part of it is because we have a hard time being with each other. We have a hard time. We have a hard time talking to one another and knowing that we have to hear what the other person said and then feel whatever comes with it.
It's the feelings. It's really hard to feel. I
Hmm?
feel like more people have become more empathic and they don't quite know it.
I
And
think
so
they
you
probably always were, and they just didn't. They
just
didn't know
more
what it
open.
was.
It's like they're feeling the other person's
Uh-huh.
feelings, and you have to reconcile where you're responsible in this situation of how you feel and how other people feel because you're all bouncing back and forth between each other.
Right. Well, and then the other side of that though is when you hit that point and you're like, oh, like when you start to recognize how flat texts are,
Yeah.
how much is lacking in them. And we rely on flat text so much.
Mm,
And when you have that craving for connection, you're like, I am trying so hard to draw context from this. And
yeah.
I can't. And then you hit that point of like, it's actually worse for me to try to keep drawing context from this flat text
Mm,
because I'm drawing my own conclusions and it might not be accurate and it's not helpful. It's like I've had multiple parents around me recently having conversations with their kids and having to say things like, certain situations, like, hey, if you don't want to talk to me about this, that's fine. But please just know my brain is probably going to go to the worst case scenario
mm,
because I don't know. And I can't just leave it there. And so we are going to extreme to try to process information when we're not given context because we don't get to see the person. We don't get to witness
yeah.
eye contact. We're not feeling their energy. You're not able to get the inflection and the tone in their voices. You're not able to notice what you don't get from just these green and blue speech bubbles on our phones.
I think as a reader who offers readings in the world, and I observe a lot of other readers, I think it's always been a fascinating space to be in. And I feel like right now more than ever, so funny, I can't help it. As you're talking about text and like the little bubbles, I feel like people want to it's like because as a reader you can tap into energy in a different way and you can see things. It's like we
Mhm,
want the person in real life in the text bubble to be able to intuit through the text bubble,
mhm,
and they either don't have the capacity, they don't have
yeah,
the ability, they've never done it, or that's just not their thing, or they naturally are not going to do that. And I think
right.
that is the majority of the world. And that disconnect, that like assumption and the disconnect is so big right now.
Humanity has taken a sabbatical for too many people.
That's a very kind way of putting it.
Some people's humanity has just said, fuck you, and walked off. It's
Totally.
gone. It is gone. And the rest of us are like, look, I can share mine, but I'm going to need that back. What's happening here? And so, those of us that are aware, those of us that do care about others outside of labels and all of these other ridiculous things that societal structures have put on people, Like, we are willing to spread the humanity that we have around. And there's still a deficit because there's too many people that check the hell out and they ain't got none. And we are trying to fill that gap. It's this chasm and we're trying to fix it.
Mm.
And then we leave ourselves at a deficit. Then we go back to the whole you can't pour from an empty cup. Because now we're back to this like I am helping. I'm actively doing it and I want to. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna also say this quiet part out loud. You can
Say
read between the lines and do what you want with it. Helping and connecting and supporting is not limited to social media. I
Thank
said it out
you.
loud. Y'all,
You should
please.
say it louder. That's exactly how
Y'all.
I've been. Well, I mean, you and I talk offline, but like,
Right.
I mean, this is why we're recording it because we're like, we're having a lot of offline conversation about this. Especially in the past couple of weeks. I'm just going to say geopolitics. I'm just going to leave it there. There's a lot going on. And I've seen so many people turn to social for their discourse. I'm like, what? Have you checked with people offline?
And they're not, especially because you are digesting information that is rhetoric and it's sensationalized, and you are leaving humanity behind, and you are actually simply following, you are going along with the programming as it was designed. You are going
Mhm.
with the systems as they were designed.
Yeah.
I personally am with humanity here. Okay, if you know me, you already know where I'm at. I'm not doing this right now with people here because I just,
Oh,
you already know. And again, I don't I don't need to go to some imaginary online platform to put a stake in the ground of where my beliefs and my ethics and my values are. You know me, you know where they are.
hmm
Period.
hmm
Period. Point blank. You know who I'm supporting. You know who I'm loving up on. You know who
yeah,
I want to make sure, are you okay? What can I do for you? You know who I'm connecting with.
yeah,
And
yeah.
what people forget is that, you know, there is the bigger piece. And y'all, I used to always have a problem with people that would be like, I'm going to go across the seas and I'm going to do Habitat for Humanity, but I'm going to step over a homeless person right here. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. There's also trash in the backyard here.
Yes. I like can you take care of the people around you? Because there's this thing that's happening. It's a chain reaction. It's like when you do that form of bypassing, which is like, look at the
Mhm.
Good Samaritan man, but like you're like not actually like it's not 360 degrees. Then what happens is like other people, this is that energetic back and forth. Other people respond back to you, and then people aren't my problem lately is like I'll ask people, how are you? Genuinely, how are you? Humanity to humanity, human to human. How are
Mhm.
you? And the responses back, there is this fear of being vulnerable. Like the response back I get, it's like, well, you could have just posted that on Instagram. Like, that's no, really, how are you?
Right.
And it's like I can go for a
Right.
few rounds on that, but it's like it's been kind of heartbreaking, because the intuitive empath in me can feel a whole lot of things. But as a reader, the number one thing is, and I get this clearly from Akashic guides all the time when I'm doing readings, and they're like, they're not ready to hear it. That is not the information that you give them.
Right.
This is where they're at. This is the level. It's like in school, if you're dealing with an eighth grader, you don't give them graduate level material if they're
No.
not ready for it. So you give them eighth grade level material, and
Of course, we're
and
talking, and I'm going to put cards in my hand because
thank
that
you.
feels like the thing to do.
um, I'm like the reader whose cards are all out on her shelf over there. So I I find that is an interesting pattern. I think it's something those of us who deal in the spiritual spaces, especially with our coaches, like it's an important space for us to start articulating and talking about and being open about so that they hear words and start to unravel the tension where it's just like, I'm afraid that I'm going to say the wrong thing or be the wrong thing or that my feeling's
Right.
not valid, or they don't even know what they're feeling because they've been told to just look a certain way. And it's like, but
Well, and the immediacy of like you need to do it right now. And
yes.
I think that
Oh,
especially
that really is.
especially in the US with how poor the education system has been set up and how there's a lack of knowledge and there is a space of like you need to educate yourself. Um I feel like you hit this place and it's just like social media went away today or tomorrow. Okay. What do you do with the people around you? How do you connect with them? Who do you help? Who do you listen to?
Mm,
Who hugs you?
mm,
Who pats you on the back? Who leaves the thing that you needed on your door because they knew that you needed it
yeah.
and they're not looking for anything back from you?
Mm-hmm.
And so I am never going to dismiss the power of being able to witness things that you otherwise wouldn't know, because that's another part of the system working as it's designed to keep you away from the things it doesn't want you to know so it can do trash in silence. And at the same time,
That is such a good question. Trash.
yeah. And at the same time, there is this obligation that we all end up picking up to be something for all of us that we're being denied. And that's where the humanity comes in. We're all trying to provide that humanity, that I see you, I hear you, I witness you. I Because you're not getting that. But getting it from me miles and miles away may or may not fix your reality.
Yeah.
And all of these thoughts, all of these feelings are messy and imperfect. And basically, I just, I want certain things to not be a thing and I can't make it go away.
Yeah.
And I know that there is some type of purpose that we are here for, and we don't know what that is. And that is where we try to find meaning in it. Honestly, for a lot of us, our woo woo is our religion. That's
Mm,
how we try to find it. Like the first one I pulled, it literally frustration and dispute. Allow your mind to wander, hinder yourself from unnecessary answers.
mm.
The next one is strength and benevolence. Speak your truth and unleash your soul. Listen to the roar of your own heart.
Okay, I want to point out a couple of things. There's some really big things in there. The speaking your truth. I feel like there's so many people who are missing a true outlet. A true
Yeah.
outlet.
Yeah.
The thing I channeled in the last week that I've been sending out to my community has been like, it's in times like this where you need to like double down, triple down, quadruple down, quintuple down on your zone of genius and do that work. And you and I were having, getting ourselves sort of situated before we hit record, and we were talking about how it's hard sometimes to think that there's significance in the thing you do that seems completely unrelated to like the events of the world around you. And I my favorite spiritual teacher is Carolyn Mace. I talk about her all the time, and she has some old lectures that are really great. And she talks about how we're modern mystics. We don't get the benefit in this modern day and age of retreating to the monastery for life and just being on the hilltop away from society where you can do the private quiet channeling and live like a monk. Like we don't live like that anymore, and even modern day monks don't live like that anymore. You go to Asia and you will
No.
see monks everywhere out in the streets. Like it's awesome. But as modern mystics, we have to learn how to continue to do the mysticism that comes through us while also living everyday life, which is paying your rent, putting food on your table, like doing what you got to do. And
Mhm.
it's a noisier existence, it's a noisier world, but that's the evolution of the mysticism, is that you don't
Right.
sequester yourself. It's not one thing here and one thing over there. It's like everything mixed together. And
It's not
I think that's
compartmentalized. It can't be,
it
unfortunately.
can't be. And I really feel like this is what people are struggling with right now.
Oh my gosh, yes. Ooh, oh boy.
I'll just leave
That.
that there.
No, when you said it, it was like,
Right?
because you're like, how my head says, how can I sit and do a tarot spread? How can I honor my ancestors? How can I finish my book?
Mm,
How can I, you know, support my people that are being harmed by what's happening in the world right now?
mhm,
How can I love my children and continue to guide them? How can I continue to heal myself from the
mm.
traumas I've experienced in life? How can I make the money to keep food on my table because we still need to eat and resist the fucking system?
Yeah.
Like all at the same damn time. All at
All
the same time. Because
all at the same time.
all of these things have a certain need. And somebody could easily be like, oh, well, take this off the plate or take that off the plate. And it's like, so if I take my tarot spread off, then I don't give myself the opportunity to figure out what's going on within me, that I just let it pile up. And then that's when I end up in the corner because I'm struggling, because I can't function. Because like, I have a friend that's a Cancer, and she cries more because it's, I guess like, there's the Cancer piece of it, from an astrological perspective. And I wish I did cry more. It's not
Mm.
because I don't have anything to cry about, or like it isn't there. And I think about it like, oh, it's not even about crying because something's wrong. It's the release.
It's
From
the
a somatic
relief.
perspective, it's good for you.
Thank you.
And I don't.
Somatics has been so powerful. And this week, the somatic therapist I started working with last year, that was when I
Mhm.
kicked off my somatic journey. I did a live attendance class. And she recorded a video testimonial this week, and it was really wild to do a reflection a year later and just like talk through some of the things.
Yep.
And I think there's a reason why certain like methods and modalities are starting to have their zeitgeisty time, and somatics I definitely see rising right now. And
Oh
there's
yeah.
a reason for it, like because of the way technology is integrated into our lives. And I am like the most uber tech nerd on the planet. So I love me my bits and bytes, man. I love them
Right.
so much. And it's like, and also it does something to your frame of reference where you can
Yep.
disembody very easily. And I think those of us who are super neurospicy, we are very prone to disembodiment where we pop out of our bodies because it's like, it's too much. I don't want to be here anymore. And
Mhm.
then all this stuff is still happening. You are in a human life right now.
That part. That
And
part.
then you become further disconnected from humanity, but that also further disconnects you from your higher guidance and your intuition.
Right.
And it just becomes this horrible downward spiral.
It does. It does. And that's where I'm like, if I don't do tarot, and I know there are times I don't touch my cards and I should be, and I can feel what happens when I don't.
Yeah.
That also means that then when I want to go and talk to the ancestors, I'm not clear to be
Hmm.
able to pick up and put down
There's no
what needs to be
space.
happening. That also means that then when it comes time for me to take care of my people that I want to share my humanity with, because others are trying to steal their humanity from them,
Hmm.
my reserves are lower.
Yeah. You need more space. Okay. On a really practical sense, you and I
Mhm.
coach a lot of business people.
Yeah.
We talk about making space on your calendar. You can't, if you're in meetings top to bottom, this sounds like corporate people, meetings top to bottom all day long. And then you're like,
Yep.
when the hell am I actually supposed to do any work? And that
Yes.
happens in your spiritual side of life, which is like everything top to bottom. Your energy is booked out top to bottom
Yep.
from the moment you wake to the moment you go to bed, even while you're sleeping. And there's no space in there for you to exercise your intuition or to actually have the feelings and process them and show up for other people and
Yep.
firstly for yourself and so like I feel like there's so much of a bunch of people waking up right now and like learning that they need to clear their calendar. And I think one of the best things is do super practical things in life because that's me, that's sensible woo, like practical things. And I'm like, start with your actual daily calendar. And it's like, can you cancel a bunch of shit off your calendar from now through the end of the year? And what happens when you do spiritually, energetically, when you do?
Right. So the interesting thing is that I think that that is the tangible. You can, like, your calendar is your calendar.
Yeah.
You can witness exactly what's on your calendar. The other part is being able to actually pay attention to what you do with the uncalendared time.
Mm.
So how much, I
Yeah.
can always tell when things get a little sketchy because I'm scrolling too much. And so, when I'm in there, I'm like, oh, I need to get out of here. Because then it's like, I could have touched my tarot cards.
Yeah.
I could have, filled my reserves. So therefore I could have had enough to check in with my people and not
Mm.
felt like I checked in, but I was now taking from myself in order to do it. And then I was flat,
Yeah.
from, the kind of the energetic ladder. Like, now this is, from a parasympathetic perspective. Now this
Yeah.
is where I am. Now I can actually just maybe, you know, take some deep breaths for a
Mm.
moment. And again, for me, there are those tangible things that when I don't do them, I know, like, there's the literal piece of like, okay, did I sit and do a tarot spread? Even before I get to that point, okay, did I just pick it up and pull one card? Did I do morning pages today?
Mm.
Did I burn incense? Did I put essential oils in the diffuser? Did I water my plants?
The
Because
ritual.
these, right, like these are the connections with, you know, earth, air, fire. Like, these are the connections with elements.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I don't connect with those in the same way, I can tell. I
There's
can
a
tell.
there's a reason why I think there's a reason why over time things like institutionalized religion did show up in the world because humans need structure and they need ritual. We all do. And we can't just be loosey goosey about everything. Otherwise, we are a very self-destructive kind of a being.
And the
And
interesting
yeah.
part is, if you pay attention, you'll have structure. If
Hmm.
you pay, even if your structure is unstructured, do you
Hmm.
pay attention to the fact that it's there? You think, oh, I didn't give myself structure. Are you sure?
Hmm.
Do
Because
you
you
get up every
do.
morning and do the same things in the same way?
Yeah.
Do you always brush your teeth before you go downstairs? Do you always take a shower before you go downstairs? Do you always close the door before you go to sleep?
Hmm.
Do you always check if everything is locked before you have these things? Do you pay attention to them enough to then do them intentionally? And
Mm.
that's where I think when you go into that piece of like organized religion, it's to give you something that, like, you purposefully pay attention to it, because we ignore the daily rituals that we create and
Yeah.
we minimize them
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
somebody else didn't say this is a ritual. Organized religion means somebody else validated it. And for some of us that need external validation, mm-hmm,
Hmm. Yeah. Oh, it's so complex.
this
And
is messy.
it's
All of it is
messy and it's
messy.
complex, but I think the human experience is still a beautiful one. I
It
think the
is.
hard part is just watching how many people are in so much pain in so many different ways. And as like a spiritual channeler for people who literally pay me to do this for them, my like I feel so much for so many people right now. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, there it does get better. It's a cycle, it's a shift, it's growth. Growth is uncomfortable. I'm like but individual on an individual level, you see people struggling, and you and I have that nice Venn
Yeah.
diagram intersection between our business worlds and our woo-woo worlds, and like in that Venn diagram area, it's like these are the people, like these are the people we're
Mm-hmm.
talking to. Like they have to find the anchoring points, and I love that you put like the unconscious ritualization of life into context where it's like start with that, and it's like can we be more intentional about that. I know from all the energetic work I've done over the years what a big impact that makes for improvement. I've seen people, energetically improve their lives over the years doing things like that. Um, but going for like the big fancy thing, like, oh, I got to go on a retreat or I've got to, I don't know, become Mother Teresa or something like that doesn't work. And I see people reaching
No,
for that right now. And I'm like, put it down.
we're not talking about the privilege of being able to pause your life and go somewhere on a retreat.
Yeah.
We are talking about the retreat of I have done all of my daily requirements. It is quiet. The moon is up, the sun is down, and I can now pause and take XYZ amount of moments to do this thing in order to, when I pause and I pull out rose scented incense and I light it and I take that deep breath,
Mm-hmm.
just that small moment in time
Mm-hmm.
can be a large ritual
Mm-hmm.
because it is a moment of me trying to pay attention, me trying to be open,
Mm-hmm.
me really focusing on, you know, what do I want to receive? What do I want to put out? What am I willing to amplify? And knowing that I'm doing it imperfectly.
Yeah.
And that's always the challenge whenever, this time of year comes because people start to talk about these more structured pieces. Um, and altars come up. And I want to acknowledge there's a lot of noise out there, y'all. Please be careful who you get information from and know that a lot of the information that you're going to need is probably not going to exist because the people that have the true information are not putting it on the TikToks all the time, as my friend calls
Yes.
it.
Thank you for saying that out loud.
So be very
It,
careful and read between the lines with what you're getting because people that are sharing, they're only going to give you the pieces so that they know that the people that are supposed to get it are going to get what they need and then they can connect the dots. Please be so careful with this and know that. And I say this because I am prone to being like, I want to get it right. It is doing it, and you will fail into what it is for you. And
yeah.
so the more that you're able to go in and connect with those that are there for you authentically and be less concerned about the picturesque that I do it right because this is what it's supposed to. Mm-mm, mm-mm. Especially being a Black American person who a lot of the spirituality practices that we kept and then adapted and then have passed down in large and small ways
Yeah.
came from us having to use whatever we had access to and
Mm.
doing it in the best way that we could with the
Mm-hmm.
environments that we were in. Y'all stop
Yeah.
thinking you have to have this Instagram. That is some privileged consumerism bullshit. That is absolutely not what this is. Stop. Stop.
Yeah.
And granted, and I love a good crystal, as y'all can see. I do. And
And also, it's a both and world. And also, well, I mean, so I've been traveling all year and I just got back from my last trip. And one of my big takeaways was like, oh my God, there is so much news not being reported around the world right now. And getting out of the usual cycle of where I live and the things I usually hear just like
yeah.
blew open a whole bunch of things. And I mean, not that we on a like a very theoretical level don't already know that.
Mhm.
But the librarian in me knows with the amount of information flowing around the world, it is impossible to have that reach
Right.
100% in reportage. But I went to a country where even if I had had news alerts on, would never have been alerted that the whole freaking place was literally on fire, burning. The
Right.
people were burning it down as I was
Mhm.
flying in. Had no
Mhm.
idea, and it's still not being reported. And
Right.
there are things happening everywhere that impact us so deeply on such
Yeah.
a daily level that I think the real spiritual lesson of existing in the modern mystic experience is understanding there are a lot of things I don't know that I don't know that I'm never going to know. And I've always got to bring it home. And bringing it home is this body here, And,
Mhm.
if we can get down on that micro universe level,
Right.
and if people did that work, like, holy holy shit, so many things in this world would change for the better. Like, I can't even
Right.
imagine. And it doesn't, and you don't have to
Right.
agree on everything. You don't have to
No.
line up on everything. But if you're doing the work on
No.
you, if everybody did the work on themselves, like, holy
Right.
shit.
So and again, I think we talked about this. Like when you go back to Maslow's hierarchy and the fact that it was stolen, I believe, from the Blackfoot people, and you
Mm,
look at like, oh, actually, it's upside down, and it's like the self actualization um, is absolutely a part of it. But the thing I think that is so bastardized right now is that it's like it's about me recognizing me, and it's like no, it's how you are recognizing yourself within the interdependence of others. And it is how these things all fit together. And the
yes.
interdependence is the part that like if 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 there was more of that, then there would be more of an opportunity for the pockets of interdependence to be able to start to fit together, which creates more of that unification. Because I, you know, can't just randomly reach across the miles and create that simply
Mm,
in 10,000 miles away. I can start it right here. And how does it get there? Through the branches that connect things.
mhm.
And so it's the figuring out what you can do right where you are at this moment and not letting that powerless piece catch you. Because that part of like, I can't do enough, I can't fix this. And
God, that's so draining.
that is what, again, like parasympathetic has you flat. It will put you flat because you will feel like, I can't fix this, I can't do this. And
Yeah.
witnessing some people that I love dearly right now just being like, what's the point? And it's like that's the part where it's just like all we can do is do this thing. And I was telling you in the very beginning of how like, and I'm gonna try to shorten it, but like when you for me, music is a big one. And if I listen to a song came on this morning, I was like, oh, and that whole cycle hit my brain of a friend reminding me, hey, you need to do the thing that you do because you don't know how it's going to impact somebody else. Because
Yeah.
when you think about something that someone else created and how it impacted you would be different if you didn't have it. And so the song that came on showed up in like the 70s. And clearly there was strife happening to Black people then when this
Mhm,
Black group created this song.
mhm.
And yet that song this morning brought comfort for me. It grounded me. And so that recognition of what you can do and not knowing how it's a part of the conduit, it's like the world can be burning and beauty can still exist. And that is a really hard thing to
Right.
process.
Really hard to process that, and they're so far apart right now, the burning and the
Yeah.
beauty, so the dichotomy of it is it's a lot for an individual to feel and to carry, and I'm like, "But that is what we are being asked of right now, is to, like, level up to the place where it's like, I can exist in this. I am still alive, and I am existing, and I can figure out how to thrive to the
Hmm.
best degree possible right now." Because it's not gonna get any easier. It just doesn't.
No,
That's not life.
no. And as two people, I think that a lot of the work that we do goes into supporting people in healing in different ways, whether that's mindsets, whether it's, the feelings and the emotions that you're trying to process through if we're thinking about shadow work,
Yeah.
if it is, everything feels terrible because I don't have systems from a tangible perspective.
Mhm.
Okay, whatever that is. When we think about that, okay, our everything that we're doing is to attempt to promote healing. And because of the trauma that is currently playing out, the need for healing is still present.
Yeah.
Um, and for me, reminding myself that the things that I am creating are still a part of trying to heal what is already here, and that is still needed.
Mm.
That not negating one for the other, because that also feels like the system working as it was designed. Oh, yeah, don't do that thing because you're so worried about this. And then this over here will get really, really bad. And then that'll be the next thing that we'll go to.
Yeah.
because the playbook just keeps being like this, the same play over and over and over and over again. It's the same thing over and over again. And so it's like, wait, we'll do it here. So I had somebody the other day said to me, the concept and the construct of white supremacy. Okay.
Yeah.
This is not about people. And I keep reminding people that can be enacted by anybody. That construct and that concept, do people that enact it ever get full? And I brought it back to the Hunger Games. I was like, no, because you know what happens? They throw it up so they can ingest more of it. So that trauma that they just want, they just keep wanting more. It's an insatiable thing while everyone else goes hungry. They
Mm-hmm.
will continue to ingest the trauma while they witness others creating the trauma because of what they don't have, their humanity being robbed. And so, you know, there is this place of having to understand that those constructs keep going. Where can you continue to figure out how to keep going? Because they're going to keep going,
Yeah.
and when we pause ourselves to somehow think like, oh, no, we can't do that because we have to do this. No. This is somehow we have to multitask. We're trying to do the both and
Yeah.
because we have to. We are acknowledging trauma and we current trauma and
Yeah.
we are healing past trauma.
Yeah.
We are acknowledging current humanity being robbed while rectifying the damage of past humanity being robbed. And so we have to straddle both. And again, y'all, this is messy and it's complex and it has to be imperfection and it has to be some type of grace. I am not talking about the people that don't do nothing. I am not talking about the people that
No, we
can't
are
figure
not talking.
themselves out. That is not those people. That is not what that's not that. We're talking about the ones that are in it and are trying to figure out how to do it. So
Yeah.
please know this is not the saviorism. This is not the performative. We're not talking about them. We're not
Mm-mm.
talking about that.
Mm-mm.
But when you're really in it and you're a part of it and and you're a recipient and you're trying to be a part of the solution. It
Mm-hmm.
is like, what is it that I have that I can reach or rest on? Like, reach for or rest on in this moment as I am trying to just keep going.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing that is the hardest thing to do and yet the most necessary thing to do.
Very necessary. I just want to point out that as we wrap up, yes, you and I do talk on this level regularly.
Literally. Yeah.
And as we keep recording more of these Woo Bestie series, like I just want to point that out because there's always like a few people who will follow certain ones of these series on my YouTube channel. And
Mm-hmm.
and so for the people who are hanging out with us in the woo space, like I want to point out that this isn't like, oh, we're just sitting down to have like this big in-depth discussion. Like we regularly have
Mm-mm.
this level of discussion. And so by modeling it, it's like when you're looking for
Yep.
that woo bestie who can equally hold space with you in this
Yep.
way, we're not like we're looking for people who are not just going to stay at a surface level or who like dip in and then bounce out. And then when it's convenient for them, dip back in again and bounce out. Like this
Mm-mm.
is,
No.
sustained, sort of deep inner work.
Sustain.
And I just want to make
This
sure because like there was such like there's so much deep, profound stuff that's been coming out of your mouth today. And I'm just like, yes,
hope so,
but
because Lord knows
also
my brain does not feel like it is. I'm like, am I on
none of us
today? I
feel like
can't
it right
figure it
now.
out. I don't know.
But like I think it's important that people understand that you and I've hit record to digest some things that have sort of come up recently, but also like this isn't we do it for YouTube, like it happens regularly.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Pulled a card. I love this deck, by the way. This is a
Oh,
Fortune
I
of
love
One. You want to laugh when I show you this card.
Oh, I love the tower. Yeah,
People get so afraid of the tower. The tower does not scare me, by the way.
tower never scares
The
me.
tower is like, hey y'all, there's some shit that has to come down in order for rebuilding and rebirth to happen for the next thing that's actually going to be better.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out the house before it burns down.
Yeah. I felt like I really understood the tower when I was living in LA. And there was this period of time where I had changed from working for the movie studios, and they're all up in the valley, or at least the ones I worked for. And then I changed to a marketing company that was down in Santa Monica, and it wasn't worth it to break my apartment lease. So for like 3 months, I did the brutal commute from the San Fernando Valley down to Santa Monica. And that's a drive. Anyone who knows that that's a
Mm-hmm.
horrible commute. And I tried every single road possible to try to find the best route. And I would sit in these canyon roads, and you just like inch along because there's so much traffic. So you just sort of inch along on your morning commute, and you pass by these homes that are built in the Hollywood Hills. And some of them are nice, some of them are not. But because the land is more expensive than the home structure itself, it's not unusual to see somebody buy a property and then demolish the actual structure on the property and rebuild something. That is a very common thing. And so while you're sitting there, you pass by a lot of construction, a lot of home construction. And the tower card is totally that image in my mind of like sitting on Laurel Canyon, and like you're in the middle of it. And there's this home that's been built into the hillside, and they are taking it apart piece by piece and demolishing it. And then they put up a whole new structure. And you don't just knock down a house there. There's no space to do that. It's not the middle of a Kansas cornfield. So it's like
Right.
piece by piece, this thing comes down, and it comes down remarkably fast. You pass them every single day while you're sitting in your car commuting. And I think the tower card is so that. And,
Piece
you
by
know,
piece.
And I think
Piece by
sometimes we think the
piece.
tower is this like uncontrolled dismantling. And I have always felt that it is
No.
a very controlled and co-creative process. It can be not co-creative if you're just like, I just want to deny it. But like
The
if you're
ignoring of it.
present, if
Yeah.
you're in it, it's
Yeah.
co-creative, and it's like, okay, we're gonna dismantle this thing. And sometimes it's not glamorous and it's not fun, but
No. But
you
it does
can't,
feel very piece by piece
it's
because
very piece by piece.
it's not the thing that so the part that I think is interesting, what you said just gave me a beautiful like mental picture of it because I don't think it's some I don't feel like the tower is um it's not a forest wildfire.
Yeah.
It feels like something that you do have enough time to get out.
Mhm.
You have the awareness of like, oh shit, let me grab my stuff and go. You might not like be able to like mosey along, but you can. And you don't have to be in it as it falls.
Mm-mm.
And also, even once it does fall, it doesn't mean like you walk out and it's going to crumble behind you,
No.
but you are going to be able to clearly witness, like, woof, we needed to get out of that. And you're also going to be able to witness the people that were committed and were not coming out.
Yeah.
And it very much is that image of like it really depends on where like, what your vantage point is on how
Mhm.
much of it looks like it's quick and how much it looks like it's slow. Like, and I think we might have been talking about this, like the history books, like you're like, oh, this was way faster than what it feels like it is when you're in it.
When you're in it, it feels like, oh my God. Hindsight is such a beautiful thing because you're just like, oh, look, the thing
Mhm.
happened. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And again, eh, and this is where, for those that don't know as much around tarot, there's so much misinformation about what it is and it isn't. It's
Um,
cards. It is an opportunity for you to reconnect with your intuition and that inner higher knowing and pick up the messages if you want them from people that are trying to communicate with you, if you want that.
mhm.
But it's really just like, okay, what am I not paying attention to? What am I missing? What else can I just kind of like pause for a second and just kind of zoom out for a minute and really recognize it's happening?
Yeah.
And I
It's a
mean, at the
great
top.
neuro, it's a great neurodivergent tool because the act of touching something
Mm-hmm.
simple, like a piece of
Right.
paper, some cards, because your fingers are touching the thing, it immediately puts you back into your physical human body. So you're not out here somewhere not embodied. Like
Right.
you might not be fully embodied if it's real bad, but it forces you to become retethered to your human experience. And you
Yes.
need your human experience in order to access the intuition that comes along with this life
Yes.
experience, you know.
Yes.
And and there is no way you can't feel your humanity if you're actually having your human experience. And I feel like the lack of humanity that we're seeing right now is just showing painfully how many people are not fully embodied and have like
Yeah.
are kind of in denial about being a human right now.
If I if the tower ain't accurate for where we at, man, god damn.
I'll just say that some of the homes I saw that went back up in those spaces that were being demolished were the most incredible, beautiful homes I've ever seen. Like the things
Right.
that came down were these like junky shitholes from the 70s, and then they like
The ones that you're
rebuilt
like,
these
woo,
beautiful,
we can let
beautiful
that go.
structures. And I think it's just such a great, like real life embodiment of what the tower is and can be. And
Yep.
I think that's a really beautiful way for us to kind of wrap up this
Yeah.
episode.
Oh yeah. And think about the fact that the tower after that, it's the stars. So there's space for integration of conscious and subconscious and
Love the star.
flow of water. There's so many things there. So
Mhm.
there's also something else on the other side that could could be better.
That will be better.
Because this bitch coming down, whether you like it or not.
I'll bring the snacks. You bring the wine.